Hello, guys. My name is Desmond, and I welcome you to my lesson for today, where we'll be looking at mathematics. Ladies and gentlemen, please do allow me to say it is very much important that I say it is very, very much important because what I'm about to say it's massively, massively, massive. Hey, massively important, ladies and gentlemen, that I say a day without learning something new, it's a day wasted. By so saying, please, 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 please do make sure that by the end of each and every lesson that I conduct, you learn something new. Okay, so good people, without any waste of time, in today's lesson, we'll be looking at that question. So I'm expecting all the grade 12s to form part of this lesson. It's optional for the learners in lower grades. So this was a May-June 2022 exam question paper. So without any waste of time, I'm just going to quickly take you through this question number 6, which says the sketch below is f of x is equals to negative x squared minus 6x plus 7. And they say C is the y-intercept of f. A and B are the x-intercepts of f. D, having the coordinates of -5 and k, it's a point on F. Remember, guys, we only have 30 minutes to work out these maths problems. And then from there, we'll be starting with our event, our very first event for 2023. So now, I'm pretty much sure that you guys are able to see that we've got a Cartesian plane having the y and the x axis. And most importantly, we've got a parabola, which is a Z shape. And most importantly, it has shifted upwards, and again, it has shifted towards the left. And also on that same function, we've got a point being called point D, having those coordinates. And we are having this point A and also point B, which are the x-intercepts. And then we are having C, which is the y-intercept. And most importantly, at point E, this is our turning point. So now it's about that time we start answering the questions. So our very first question, which is 6.1, it says calculate the coordinates of E, the turning point of F. And this question is allocated only 3 marks. So good people, you need to remember something. When it comes to the turning points, Bantu Bakiti, it's either you are given these 2 points, and then you can be able to easily calculate that x value at the turning point. And then you can use that x value to substitute into the formula or make use of these points to derive a formula where you get the x value and then use that x value to find the corresponding y value. But in this case, where you are given an equation of a parabola, this is how you work it out. Let's see. If you guys still remember how to differentiate, maybe it might be something new to some of you guys, but this is what happens. I'll just keep it short for this lesson, but I'll make sure that on our next lesson that we'll be having, I will then train you on how to differentiate. But if you remember, Moleboga, yesterday we did discuss to say for you to determine that turning point, the x value of a turning point, there's a formula that we use which says x is equals to negative b over 2a. I'm not sure if you guys still remember this formula. Maybe let me ask Hamisa or anyone who still remembers this formula. Is it correct? Negative
Yes,
b over 2a.
yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
100%. So that means we use this formula to determine the x value at the turning point of a function. It doesn't matter whether it is a smiling shape or a sad shape. This is the formula that we use. And then what comes after, we use the equation of that particular function. If we're having f of x is equals to whatever x squared, whatever plus c, we use it. If it's g of x, which is maybe in this format, what we know is that once we have the x value, then we use that equation to determine the corresponding y value. So that means in this case, in order to determine that, we will use that formula, let's see, 6.1, and say x at the turning point is equals to, the formula says negative b over 2a. What is our b from that equation? Remember, this is a quadratic, so you're having a, b, and c. So I hear someone saying negative 6, if that's what they said. So our b value is negative 6. You put it inside the brackets because it's a negative value. Over 2. What is our a? Is it not negative invisible 1? Then from there, you get an answer. I think the answer is negative 3. Because that negative cancels now, that is that, and then 6 divided by 2, it goes 3 times into 2, and there's that negative. So you actually calculated the x value at the turning point. Now you need the corresponding y value. So now the y value, you make use of the formula of that. What is the formula? It's exactly that formula there, where you can say y is equals to negative, your x value is negative 3. So that means you're going to get the y value where x is negative 3. So what is the corresponding y value? I'm not sure if someone calculated, but they're just waiting to hear from others. I'll calculate from my side. So let's see. We are having negative into negative 3 close squared minus 6 into negative 3 plus 7. Wait, why am I getting error? Okay, I did not put that inside the brackets. So positive 16, yes, 100%. Positive 16 is what I'm also getting. So that means the turning point, we are having positive 16. So that's how you easily answer that question. So the trick there was for you to remember that when you're dealing with the turning point, you have a formula for calculating the x value of the turning point. So now let's move on to 6.2, which is allocated 1 mark. 6.2 says write down the value of k. 1 mark. I'm not sure if there's someone who'd like to give it a try before I explain, because it's very much easy based on the fact that it's allocated 1 mark. Anyone would like to give it a try? Okay, so remember, guys, you need to ask yourself, where is k? Can you guys see that k, it is actually in place of y for the coordinates point D. So you know what the x value is. So here comes the question. That point D is on which function? Point D is on which function? Okay. Do you guys agree with me that point D is on f of x, just like A is on f, B is on f, C is on f, E is on f?
Yes.
So that means you are going to make use of that function to determine the y value. This question is not different from the previous question. Value. And then once we got the x value, we use it to calculate the y value. So in this case, they've already given you the x value. You use it to calculate the k value. So it's more like you are saying, because it's on that function, you can either say y, or if you like, you can maybe say k, because y, it's there represented by k, which is equals to that formula there. But just to keep it simple, let me just say y, it's equals to negative x squared minus 6x plus 7. So negative into, what is our x value? We want to know the corresponding y value where x is negative 5. That's how it works in mathematics, especially in this chapter of functions. You ask yourself, that point that they are referring to, on which function is it? If it's on this function of f, ask yourself, do you have the x value? If the answer is yes, then you use that x value on the same function in order to determine the corresponding y value. So what are you getting there?
12.
Is it everyone who's getting 12?
Sir.
Mm-hmm. I think that was a yes. So that means a k value is actually 12. So that means at that point you are having your x value being negative 5, which was given, and the y value being that. So that's how you easily work out that problem. I'm not sure, before I move on to the next question, anyone who's got a question, guys, based on what we have covered up to this point? So, guys, this question, it is as easy as it is. This is what the learners from last year had to write in their June exam. So nothing is complicated, Bantu Bakiti. I'm telling you, if you can spend much of your time practicing, you will survive. So now, let's quickly move on to question number 3, which says, determine the equation of the straight line passing through C and D. So the moment they start saying an equation of a straight line passing through where C and D, so that means I don't think I've got a ruler, but I might need to use that so that it's actually a straight line that I'm drawing there. So just make it a straight line like that. Yes. So can you see? They are now talking about a straight line passing through point C and D. I'm not sure if you guys remember that the standard equation of a straight line is that. And if you remember, I said for us to determine an equation of a straight line, we need two things. And those things could be 1 point and the gradient, or 2 points. Those are the two possible things that you might need in order to determine an equation of a straight line. So I'm pretty much sure that you guys already know what are the coordinates of point C. Anyone who knows what are the coordinates of point C? I'm just not sure if it's taking some time to deliver the message. But remember, guys, just in case if you've got no idea, just say no idea so that I know the message has been delivered, but you guys have got no idea. Okay. Remember, guys, this value is your y-intercept. You take it as it is. So that means your y there, it is positive 7. And obviously, that's where C is 0. So that means, for example, if they draw a function and they do maybe something similar to that, and they say this is the function of a g of x, which is equals to, let's say, negative x squared, maybe plus x, let's say, positive 3. Obviously, here it has to be a positive because it's a smiling shape. So let's say it's a positive 2x squared, maybe plus 3, plus x and then plus 3. So this 3, it is that point there. So that means that point, that's where x is 0 and then y, it is 3. If you remember, we said this is the vertical shift. So it's more like this has shifted by 3 units upwards. So that is why I'm able to know that here, the coordinates at point C, that's where obviously x is 0 and then y is 7. If you want to prove it, you just do like we did there and there. We already know that the x value is 0. So you want to determine the y value. So that means you are going to substitute a 0 there and also 0 there. So obviously, when you substitute 0 there, it's already 0. 6 times 0 is already 0. So it's more like you're having 0 minus 0 plus 7. It will end up being 7. So now you can see you've got 2 points. You can use those 2 points to determine the gradient, which is changing y over changing x. But let's just substitute. So now you can maybe regard this as your y2, meaning is 12 minus what is that? It's obviously positive 7 over your x2 is negative 5 minus what is your x1? That is 0. So that means you're having what? What is this minus 7? Is it 10? No. It can be negative 1. Is it the final answer?
Yes.
Is it everyone who's getting negative 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that means you are therefore going to say y is equals to negative invisible 1 plus c. At you choose 1 point. I like using a point that has positive values. So I'm going to say at c, that is that and that. So that means where you see x, you put 0. Where you see y, you put 7. So that means you're going to say 7 is equals to negative 0 plus c, and then c will end up being 7. Then finally you say y is equals to negative x plus 7. This is the equation of a straight line that examiner expected you to provide as your answer to that question. I'm not sure if it makes sense or if there's someone who's got a question on that one. Anyone who's got a question, Bantipakit?
No question.
No question.
On my side.
I would agree with honorable members if they do not have a question on that one, because it was a pretty much straightforward question. So maybe let me write it there just in case if we might need it. They're saying y is equals to negative x plus 7. So just remember that we've got that answer which you might possibly need to have on our upcoming questions. So let's see, this is 6.4. So let's see, what is 6.4 say? So 6.4 says a tangent. Remember, the word tangent refers to that line that touches whatever only once. So if you have a circle, when you talk about a tangent, it could be a straight line, but that straight line will touch this circle only at one point. It won't do that, because if it does that, it's more like it's touching a circle 2 times. So just always remember that regarding a tangent. So the statement says a tangent parallel to CD. Okay, now remember, if you are having parallel lines, that means those two lines have got the same steepness or the same slopes. They are just in different positions. Therefore, if the gradient of, let's say, this line 1 is equals to -4, so that means the gradient of this line also is going to be -4. Why? Because both of these lines are parallel to each other. So you need to always remember that parallel lines have equal gradients. So let's see. They're saying a tangent parallel to CD touches F at P. That's a statement that we're just given. So now they haven't talked about point P, but they are now introducing that point P. So now they are saying determine the coordinates of P. This is where you need to apply your mathematical understanding. So remember, guys, if we are having a straight line similar to that one, so if you had to draw another line which is parallel to that and at the same time touching this function only at once, that's if maybe you draw it somewhere there, so that it's parallel and at the same time it touches that function only once. So that means the straight line that is tangent, because this is a hand-drawn function, it might look somehow, but I'll just force it to look a bit realistic, even though it's going to be difficult. So let's assume that it touches that function there. So what I actually try to have, let's say we are having this being that function, and then let's say this is that line, what is it, line D and C. So what I was trying to actually draw, it was another straight line which is actually parallel to that one, and can you see it touches that at one point and not twice. Why did I have to draw it above? It's because if you draw it below, it's going to touch it 2 times. Can you see? Anywhere you draw it below, it touches 2 times. That's why I had to draw it somewhere above such that it touches that only once. So the trick in this question is for you to remember that when you are having parallel lines, they've got equal gradients. That's all that you need to remember. So that means the gradient of that graph of f can be equated to a -1. What exactly am I saying there? There will be a special lesson when we get to a differentiation where I will show you how you determine the gradient and also where the formula for the gradient of the parabola is coming from. You might also understand it now when I explain. But what you need to remember is that right at that point, the gradient of this line is equals to the gradient of this parabola at that point. So it's more like we have the gradient of a parabola, and we also have a gradient of a straight line. We know the gradient of a straight line as change in y over change in x. We won't need to calculate it again because we have calculated it before and we got -1. So that is why I'm equating it to -1. Why? Because these two lines are parallel. They've got equal gradients. So that means what you now need to do is to find the gradient of f at that point. So now, how do you determine the gradient of a parabola? You differentiate. So that is what you are given. You are given y, which is equals to negative x squared minus 6x plus 7. I'm not sure if you guys still remember how to differentiate. If you are having a constant is just a number that doesn't have a letter. It falls away. It doesn't matter whether it's a negative value or a positive value. But remember, these values that have letters, do you guys remember that we've got an invisible one over there? So when you differentiate, that's how you calculate the gradient of a parabola at a specific point. So that means this means the gradient. Maybe let me do it and say the gradient of that parabola. It's going to be equals to, this is what they say when you differentiate. You take your power and you multiply the coefficient. So it's more like you're saying 2 times -1. What is that? Is it not -2? Then they say, you say x, its power is that 2. That same 2, you minus it by 1. So it's more like you're going to have x to the power of 1. You do the same with that second term. So it's more like you're saying 1 multiplied by the coefficient being -6. Is it not -6? And then you're going to say x to the exponent of 1 minus 1. So it's more like you're saying x to the exponent 1 minus 1. What is 1 minus 1? Is the same as 0. So we know that anything to the exponent of 0 is 1. So it's more like here you are having -1 into, -6 into 1, of which when you say -6 times 1, it gives you 6. So that is why they say if you just have a letter, it falls away, you just have that number. But the moment you start having a power of 2, you just minus 1 and then you have a letter there. I'm not sure if everyone understands what I was doing there, Bantu Bakiti. Anyone who's got a question, guys, on that one?
Sir, can you please repeat again? I didn't understand that.
Okay. So I'm well aware that it's not everyone who's going to understand. And the reason to that is because it's a complete new chapter that I will still need to take you through. So you might not understand. So now, sorry, let's see. This is what I've done. When you calculate the gradient of a parabola, which could be a smiling or a sad shape, you differentiate. So how does differentiation work? If you have, let's say, 2 to the exponent x, let's say here you have 3, and then let's say you have plus, and then let's say is x there. What they say is you multiply the power by that coefficient, what are you getting? You get 6. Then you write that x and you say this power, you minus it by 1. What are you having? You have 2. So that is the process. You take your power, you multiply the coefficient, and then you're going to minus it by 1. You do the same for every term. Here we have invisible 1. You take your power, you multiply the coefficient, then you minus it by 1. So what is the coefficient here? It's invisible 1. So it's more like you're saying this multiplied by 1 is positive 1. Then you subtract that by 1 there. What are you going to have? It's more like you're having x to the 0, which is the same as 1. So it's more like it's 1 times 1, which is just 1. Was that a question coming through there?
Yes.
Okay.
Why do you minus 1? Where did you get the minus 1? Why are you minusing by 1? And where did it come from?
Okay. That is a question which may not easily be answered. It's more like they say this is a formula. It's more like this is a formula. They're saying this is a formula, and you're asking, let's say, where is the x coming from? I'm just trying to give you a picture of why it might not be easy to answer that question. That's how it's done. That's how you differentiate, or that is the process you go through when you differentiate. I'm not sure if you understand, Hamisa. So that means at this stage, or in this case, you don't really need to understand or know where that one comes from, because that's what you will always do, whether you understand or not. But that is the step. So I might not answer where that one is coming from, because it's more like it's a formula, or it's a step, or is that how it's done. I'm not sure if you guys understand what I'm explaining there. The honorable member who requested for this to be re-explained, does it make sense now? No response. Okay, then it's fine. We'll continue. I notice we are actually running out of time. We should have been done by now. But otherwise, if not, we can still continue. So I think I'll just quickly finish off this question, and then from there, we'll see how we continue. So let's see. We are having negative 2x minus 6, which is what I said you can equate it to negative 1. So it's more like this, what we have just done, or what we have got. It's actually the gradient of that function at any point. So now we are looking at the gradient at that point of intersection of that straight line which is parallel to that. So we have the gradient of a parabola. We also have the gradient of that straight line. Then what we do, we are done. Once you are able to do that step, Rosie, you are done. That was the most difficult step, because here you solve for x. Then once you solve for x, then it means you know the x value at that point. Then you can use that x value to substitute into that formula to calculate the corresponding y value. I think in the meantime, let me give it to you to work it out. Once you get the answer, let me know what are you getting as your x value, and then substitute it into that formula to calculate the corresponding y value. I'll just give you a few seconds to work out that one. But do you guys have an idea of what is expected from you?
Yes. So I cannot see your screen.
Okay. I notice what could have happened. Let me do these. But remember, you are having negative 2x minus 6, which is equals to negative 1. I'm not sure if you now are able to see. Can you see, or is it blurry? Yeah, I
I
think
can
now
see, thank you.
it's perfect. So this is what you are working out. So what you do is to solve for x. Once you get the x, it means it is the x value there. Then what you need to do is to calculate the corresponding y value. So there might be some new entries. I see there's some new entries there. So remember, guys, we are about to start with our event. So I'm just waiting for honorable members to quickly work out that problem, and then from there we'll be introducing our guest. But I think let me take this opportunity to work it out with you guys. Remember, you are having negative 2x minus 6, which is equals to negative 1. All you need to do is to solve for x.
Sir,
So remember, yes.
sir, where does the
Yebo.
negative one come from?
I think for the sake of time, let me just say it comes from you knowing that this line is parallel to that line, and parallel lines have got equal gradients. So you are having y, it's equals to negative invisible 1x plus 7. So that's where the negative 1 comes from. So this is the gradient of a parabola, and negative 1 is the gradient of a straight line which is parallel to that line. But in terms of you understanding all that theory, there will be a special lesson to discuss all of that. But for now, we need to work out the x value. Remember, this is a linear equation, so you transpose and then what are you having there? So that means on the left you're having negative 2x, which is equals to negative 1 plus 6. Negative 2x is equals to, it's more like 6 minus 1. I think it's equals to 5. So you need to remove that negative 2. That's why you divide exactly by negative 2 so that it cancels and you remain with x. Meaning, if you punch this on a calculator and it gives you exactly that, that means this is the final answer for your x value. So what it means is that here the x value is negative 5 over 2. So you need to make use of that x value to calculate the corresponding y value. Just like you did with that, just like you did with that, just like you did with that, you still do the same thing. So can you see all that we have done is doable, but most importantly, you need to have a better understanding of how functions work. So that means we are having the graph of Bramah-Franco, which is equals to, so now remember, we know that our x value, it is that. That is why sometimes you will see examiner saying f of negative 5 over 2, it's equals to. Then all that you do is to substitute into that formula. So that means you're having negative into negative 5 over 2 squared minus 6, negative 5 over 2 close plus 7. Then you can punch all of that on your calculator and then you get an answer. I'm not sure if there's someone who's got an answer. But let me see. Anyone who's got an answer, Bantu Bagiti? -6 into, I know someone calculated, but they're just afraid to give an answer. Hey, I'm getting 54/3. No, over 4. Is it everyone who got that same answer? Guys. Are we getting the same answer? I think I heard something like a yes. Last one to confirm. I think I heard someone saying something. Guys, it is that time where I will say, for now, we can leave it up to this point. In case if there are follow-up questions based on that, we will cover those on our next lesson. So that means the corresponding y value is 53/4. So, good people, I'm about to close this lesson for today. I'm not sure if there's someone who's got a question on that. Anyone who's got a question on what we have covered up to this point under this question number 6? Outing bone ukuthi Moleboge uthulile namhlanje kwenze njani?
I'm observing and listening.
Okay, Mzozozo konke kuhamba kahle lapho. Mwana mameji, I see the Umis is on the line. Mr. Alex, are we okay that side? Minentle. There's David. Rosie. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our lesson for today. So, it is that time where I would like to introduce our guest for today. I'm pretty much sure that he's on the line. His name is Mr. Matozi. He's going to give us a very quick background as we start our discussion for today. So I just want to quickly give you guys a background of how this will work out. So let me just quickly check the program that I've prepared for this special event. Okay, number one, we will give our guest an opportunity to just introduce themselves. Number two, this is what is going to happen. I'm just having only one question from my side, which I'm going to pose to our guest. Number three, this is where I'm going to pose all the questions that I've received from our 2023 learners. Number four, I've got a question also of which I think is worth including in this event. And that question comes from a parent. So that will be under number 4. And number 5, I think number 5 is number 5 in Afrikaans. So number 5, that's where our guest will conclude in a way which will be suitable based on your engagement. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do welcome our guest for today, and I'm hoping that you guys have been waiting for this moment. But maybe let me check. Mr. Matos, are you on the line? Can you maybe respond so that I'm able to hear if you got all that I've explained, and if the network is good from your side.
Yes, I'm on the line and my network is perfect.
Okay, so Mr. Matosi, a very warm welcome. This is me giving you the platform. So let me maybe say, as you introduce yourself, can you also include whatever that you can recall in primary or high school during your grade 10 to 12 period, just in terms of your personality and educational performance? And lastly, in summary, your educational journey after matric. So I'm just going to mute my mic as I'll be listening.
Good evening, and good evening to all the attendees, the matriculants class of 2023. It's such a pleasure to be working with you, and it's such a pleasure to be engaging with you. And I would love to first say I wish you all the best for the 2023 academic year. As explained by your tutor here, my name is Martin Mudau. He insists on calling me Matosi. I don't understand why. But my name is Martin Mudau. I born and bred in Venda, and I think he said I should say something about my educational background. Well, I went to a very famous high school in Venda called Chivasa Secondary School. It's one of the better performing schools there. So I did my FET phase, that is from grade 10 to grade 12, in that very school. And during that period, I was doing science and mathematics. So I think the choice behind me choosing science and mathematics had to be, well, firstly, it was pressure. But I'm forever grateful for the pressure I got, because it was positive pressure from the circle of friends that I had. I had always loved speaking, so I thought I would excel well in your history subjects, but I was involved with a lot of friends who were going to the science class. So I ended up going to the science class. I think I never had a challenge with your maths and your science throughout my high schooling. Not because I was any brighter, but because I had great circle of friends. We had great support for one another during our learning years, and we spent a lot of time in or at school motivating one another and challenging one another. So in short, I would say we had a very fruitful competition during our high school age. When we graduated, we matriculated from our high school, we actually initiated a foundation that is called Bono Foundation. So we've been running this foundation now 6 years later with a very circle of friends that we got. And the purpose behind the foundation was just to say, let's replicate the model that we had of studying and supporting one another to the other learners that didn't that may not necessarily be privy to the circle of friends that we got. Just out of interest, I want you to note that when I matriculated at the year, this very circle of friends that I'm talking about, the top learner in our province was from this very circle of friends that we had. So he was ultimately the top learner of the entire Limpopo. And you can then deduce from that it's quite fair that I had fairly good marks also. Beyond my high school journey, I went to the University of Wits, where I intended in studying medicine, but I didn't have the adequate points. I was accepted for BSc, which I didn't register for because of funds. I ultimately landed myself in the University of Johannesburg, admitted for a course in a BK course, which is a Bachelor of Nursing. I did the Bachelor of Nursing course. I honored it with the University of Johannesburg. Post that, I went to the University of South Africa, famously known as UNISA, and I did a diploma in management, in total quality management from the School of Business and Economics. Currently, I'm registered for a specialty in primary health care, and I work for Gauteng Department of Health with a very strong passion in education. So I still work for the organization that I mentioned earlier, Bono Foundation. We tutor students, we mentor them, and we just assist them with anything that they might need towards their education. Part of the reasons why I'm talking to you today. Thank you.
Okay. I was actually trying to unmute my mic there. Thanks for that intro, Mr. Martin. So I'll just take that one. So now we move on to point number 2, which is tutor's question. So I'm only having one question, Mr. Martin. So I do have my own understanding of what I'm going to ask, but I would like for you to also just share your thoughts on this. So the question is just very short, which is, what's your understanding of the importance of education? Your understanding of the importance of education. So soon after this, I will then move on to point number 3. So I'm about to just mute my mic, and then I'll unmute once answered.
Thank you, Gwena, for the question. As broad as the question is, I will narrow it to 2 points. So, education, somebody says that if you say that the key to education, or education is the key to success, denying any other person that very education would be locking their entire life, and they will live their whole entire existence in jail. So I couldn't find a better phrase to phrase how important education is, because we live in a society, in a South Africa, where you need to be able to comprehend things. So when we talk education, we talk formal education and we talk informal education. Informal education, you can get it anyway. You can get it from the streets, you can get it from your grandparents at home, you can get it anyway. Anybody who can give you anything. Just the fact that you were able to learn your name and you know that Martin is your name, it's that is informal education. But I think the question now should emanate and embeds more towards the formal education. As I said, I will reduce it to 2 points. One being that education gives you key to places that your skin tone, being the black skin tone that you and I have, as well as your name and many other factors that you might attribute to yourself, would have not get you to those places. So without education in our country and economy, I stand to challenge anybody that says you can have any other way otherwise without education. Even if somebody was to tell you today that Cassper Nyovest became the most important singer without education, he had education, he just didn't have the qualification for it, but he has the education. So ultimately, I summarize it to say education is the key to success and is the key to everything that you might wish to acquire in your life, in the now and even in the future. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a day without learning something new, it's a day wasted. By so saying, please, honorable members, please, 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 Hamisa, please do make sure that by the end of each and every discussion that you have, not necessarily what you have, but what we have, you learn something new. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so now we take that one. We are about to move to learners' questions. Okay, so I won't waste time on that one. I've got, I think, Ian 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, Ian 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I've got some more, of which that will be you adding some more questions. So, Mr. Martin, the first question being, how to improve marks of difficult subjects. But maybe let me do it this way, Mr. Martin, so that you structure your response. I'm just trying to avoid a situation where in one question you include some information which will or which might be needed in the next question. So these are the list of questions that I'm having. Then we'll just one by one answer those questions. So the first one being how to improve marks of difficult subjects. Number 2, self-esteem, meaning, and how to deal with low self-esteem. Number 3, how to improve marks of difficult subjects. I think that's a repeat of the question that I received. And then the other one will be how to find your path or your own path without it being chosen for you, I assume, by elders. So the other one being how to say no to parents' forced careers. And the last one being mental health. So these are the questions that I received from our learners when they received the message that we are going to be having a guest. Maybe if you can take this opportunity to tackle the first one, which says how to improve marks of difficult subjects. So I'm just having an assumption that the subjects they're referring to, it could possibly be accounting, mathematics, physical sciences, and what else? I think maybe let's just make an assumption that geography and life sciences is one of the difficult subjects. I'm not sure about LO, but I think they get 1,000 out of 100 for LO, so we can just ignore that one. But maybe focus on those subjects, how to improve marks of difficult subjects. Muted.
The assumption that people, all of them get LO right. But yeah, I actually got 100 for an LO. So I can agree with that. How to improve marks of a difficult subject. Let me first acknowledge the person that asked that question, because one, if you know that a subject is difficult for you, it means you have done an introspection, and you are noting this at a very perfect time. This is early in the year. You still have 8 more months to improve that. So it's a very commendable question. It's a very commendable action by the learner to know what is difficult for me and what is not difficult for me. So the first thing that one needs to do is that which we've just mentioned now, to identify that a subject is difficult for them. The second thing that a learner needs to do is to then be able to come up with a strategy to say, now that this subject is difficult, what is actually difficult about this subject? Is it the understanding of the subject? Is it the technicalities of the subject? Or is it my attitude towards the subject? So if it's the understanding of the subject, you are doing everything that you're doing. You can sit down and you study and you still consult and you don't understand that. You don't understand the subject. It's rather unfortunate that we can't change that subject, but we'll come back to this. But if it's the technicalities of the question, I mean of the subject, technicalities being the concept are being said, they're being taught, but I just don't get this concept. So you might need to engage your teachers or your tutors for that and have a one-on-one with them. Because subjects, concepts, when they're introduced in class, a teacher would have an approach that they think is the simplest approach, but that very simplest approach might not be simple enough for you. So you're going to need to set aside consultation with the teachers so that you can understand the concepts. And the third point that we mentioned is the attitude towards the subject. We generally believe that maths and science are very difficult subjects. And if you go into those subjects with that perception, you won't be able to tackle and win that battle, because it's an intrinsic thing. Intrinsic meaning it's coming from within. You already have a negative attitude towards a subject and you won't be able to learn it effectively. So I'll give you these 3 tips to deal with point number 1, where we are saying the subject is just difficult to understand. Firstly, you have to invest more time in that subject and not neglecting the other subjects as well. And if it's difficult for you already and you are studying by yourself, you might need to find a partner for that subject. Some people learn better by listening to the others as they teach them. Some are more photogenic, which means you can learn better when you're given videos that are explaining the very concept. And some would love to have audios. What I used to do when I was studying, and I learned this very late in life, when I was in the university, and I realized that I was doing a lot of theory modules. I had about 8 theory modules. I started recording myself or my notes for the theory modules. I think I had a competitive, rather a much more advantage, because I had a car. So I would record myself, load those things into a memory stick, and then as I drive around in and around campus or going wherever, I can listen to myself. So I get to remember these things as a song. And I did this a lot with life sciences. I think even when I'm sleeping and you give me the T. Isaac understanding for life sciences book and you ask me any chapter, I'll probably have an understanding of where that thing is, because I had audios for all those things. So that's you need to understand how you read or you study subjects for your understanding. It's either you can record yourself, it's either you can use videos, it's either you can just find a group of other learners. I don't know if this still happens in school. It's been a decade since I matriculated. But back then, we used to identify somebody who was relatively stronger than you in a subject, and you study with them. It's either you spend time with them at school, or for the duration of your matric year, you would move in with them. But I think right now, with the use of technology, you don't necessarily have to move into their home or have them move into your home. You can just spend enough time together, share videos, share ideas around the modules. So if you do that and it's still not working, then the third thing that you might have to explore would be to find a tutor for that module. And the tutor must be somebody that is not necessarily your teacher, because if the method that you've consulted with your teacher and you're not getting them right, you might need to have somebody tell you that very information using a different method. So you find a tutor for the module, and you make sure that you structure your course when you go to them. Don't go to a tutor and expect the tutor to tell you what is inside your textbook. Go to the tutor knowing what is inside your textbook, and that you will just have a better understanding. So this says you need to study beforehand. Before you come to this class, you need to come here having been prepared, meaning you would have done your self-studying. If there are question papers that you're treating, you would have attempted that question paper, and when the tutor is doing it, you are then doing correction. But if you go there blank-minded, you won't be able to get anything from that tutor. So I think that sums up how you can improve subjects of difficulties. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Rosie, I'm not sure if you are listening, honorable member, because that response, it even covers a question of how to improve marks of difficult question. Okay, that is actually a repeat of that same question. I just noticed what happened here. But most importantly, guys, this is what I've just learned, of which it could possibly work to some of you guys. But Hamisa, I'm pretty much sure that you still remember this song that I sang last year. So the song goes like this, Mr. Alex. So just to give you a background, I also struggled with cramming a periodic table because during our time, I think they did not give us a periodic table. So I had to create a song that I was going to sing just to remember a periodic table. And it goes like this. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, hydrogen, Haley B, Bukhanov, Ninamaga, Alsip, Satloragon, Cas Activi, Chrome, Emon, Fekonekoze, Gage Asibrom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a whole periodic table over 10 years. I still remember this song. So that means I will never forget a periodic table. So now, quickly, we move on to the next question. Mr. Martin, Elena says self-esteem, meaning, and how to deal with low self-esteem. Muted.
If these questions when they are not anonymous as they are sent to you, I would also love to make a follow-up with this, Lena, because it's self-esteem. It's a point of interest for me. I work for the Department of Health, so I would love to just adopt this learner and make sure that they grow also up until they are done, because self-esteem issue, you can't really tackle it once. But let me answer this by saying self-esteem, it's the image of self, how you think, feel, and look at yourself. And if your self-esteem it's low, it affects the outlook of how you look at things. So people with low self-esteem are people who would say, I can't do this, I won't pass, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy to go to university, I won't qualify for this, I won't qualify for that. So people with low self-esteem, ultimately, they always look at things from a point of negative. And it can be due to your upbringing. It can be due to the poor development of your brain. It can be due to the environment where you grow up in. As you were growing up, they kept on saying, no, you can't do this. When are you not good enough? When are you not? So there are a lot of factors that might affect one's self-esteem. But there are very few tips that I'm going to give that can assist people to improve their self-esteem. One, when we were still in I think in primary, somewhere around about grade 6, we learned something in our LO class. I remember it vividly. We were taught by a teacher called Miss Nkumereni, and she used to have a picture in our LO book that was written saying, I am unique. And it said what? This is myself, and I am uniquely created. Meaning, me as I am unique. There's just one Martin. We can have so many Martins, but there's just one Martin Modau with the characteristics that I have: my physique, my abilities, my brains, my ability to comprehend information, and I need to embrace that. So one, you need to have an understanding of self. So who am I? And once you identify that and you know that who you are then able to say, what is it that I wake up each and every day to fulfill? So if you are saying, this is Martin Modau, I'm a matric learner, and how do you paint a positive picture? You then say, I'm going to pass my matric with flying colors. What we used to do in my group, we would have a table. I don't know if I can have a video. So sorry for taking control of the video, but I want to show the learners what we used to do. So we would have a table that was written 10, 20, and then 30, and then 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and then 100. And in trying to boost our confidence about or defining who we were, we would then use, oh, my pencil case is very far. Oh, actually, I have this in my study table. We would then use a red pen somewhere just above a mark 50. So even if the education system had told us that a 30 would be a pass, we would then scratch this point out, right? And then we would use a yellow pen somewhere just before this, just after the 70 mark, to say, if I'm performing anything in here, I would still not be performing better, but it's an ember. I'm not really there yet. And then we would have a green mark. I don't have a green pen with me right now, but we would have a green mark for anything that was at the 80 and above. And one of our friends would have a slogan that says, we would write it here to say, go big or go home. Why am I making this illustration when I'm asked about self-esteem? It's because self-esteem, it starts with who you see yourself and how you see yourself. So, and how you categorize yourself in relation to success. So if you're saying, I'm not good enough, I won't pass this subject, you need to start setting goals. I am uniquely created and I am beautiful. Each and every day you affirm these words. I am uniquely created, I am beautiful, I am smart, I am going to pass my matric with flying colors. And then you start to quantify these flying colors. What is your definition of flying colors? If you are working and you know that you are somewhere at 30 in life orientation, it would be very much unfair to then say, I will go to 100. You are trying to kill yourself. But it's fair to say, from this 30, I can at least perform just somewhere in the amber line. I want to be there. This is where bachelors are made. I want to be there. And then you work each and every single day to affirm yourself. And when you reach this mark, you push it a little bit higher. So when you push it a little bit higher, which means you're setting a new target for yourself. Don't set unrealistic targets. Targets when they are set, or goals when they are set, you guys know this from your studies of LO, which you are passing with flying colors, that goals need to be smart, meaning they need to be realistic. I mean, they need to be small, they need to be measurable, they need to be attainable, they need to be realistic, and they need to be time bound. So I am going to move from 30 to 50 by the end of term 1. And I'm going to be between 50 and 70 by the end of term 2. I'm going to maintain my 70 and hopefully go beyond the 70 by term 3. For my finals, I'm aiming for an 80. So that's how you improve your esteem each and every single time. You set targets, and when you achieve these targets, your body feels good, and they release hormones that aid you to want to achieve more. So that's why people would always say life is difficult for those that want to achieve, because they constantly want to improve themselves. But if you're content with being in a corner somewhere and not doing well, you will ultimately have problems. So I just thought maybe I should share this in my attempt to assist this person to deal with esteem. But also I understand that esteem goes beyond how you think and feel about yourself. It goes very well to the integration of a lot of things, the mental health, psych, and family background also. So, but for the purpose of your education, let's block everything else and let's focus in making sure that where you are, you either go big or you go home. And I don't want nobody to go home. So right now we are saying for this 2023, we are going big and going big. So there's nobody who's going home. I think that is tackled.
It's either you are going big or you are going home. Me, I'm already at home. I just need to put on a navigator there to find direction towards going big. Okay, that was a very informative response, Mr. Martin. So I think I'm about to say it feels like this won't be your last time as a guest. And for that reason, I think instead of having to include all those questions, I'll just pick one important one under learners' questions. And then from there, I'm just going to give some learners an opportunity to just pose a question if there's any. Otherwise, we'll move on to that one parent's question. And then from there, that's when we'll be closing. And hopefully, sometime soon, we will invite you to discuss some more of which it might not have been included in this event. Okay, so now that one last important question and a learner's question. Where is that question? Okay, here's that question, which is varsity online applications and accommodation. I'm just not sure if I can add a spice to this question. Just to say, I think here a learner is trying to have a better understanding of how do these online applications work and also accommodations. And most importantly, what I would like to add is it the right time for grade 10s or grade 11s or grade 12s to start applying? And most importantly, is it just a matter of applying because fellow learners are applying? Or as soon as I'm in grade 10, am I in a good position to then make a decision to say, I actually want to study engineering or I want to study whatever? Because obviously, if you're in grade 10, you just know that for you to study medicine, you need mathematics and physical sciences, maybe life sciences and other subjects. But you are not yet sure if you're going to cope with those subjects. I think when you get to grade 12, that's when you have a better understanding whether you will survive or not based on your progress. But now I'm in grade 10. I'm not sure if I really want to study medicine. Maybe I am sure I want to be an accountant, but now I'm not sure if this accounting is difficult or not. But how do I actually go about that? I think it's a question of how do I actually choose a career, and most importantly, how does the varsity online applications and accommodation work in summary? So that was a question that I picked up from the list that I had. I hope, Mr. Martin, you got all my questions because I lost a connection during your response to the previous question. But I think now all is clear. Muted.
Thank you. So you started by summarizing briefly what you wanted. Let me just take this opportunity and I want to connect this with the graph that I was just showing. At the top of my graph, I knew that I wanted to have a car when I got to university, but I didn't know the how I was going to do that. And I love that strategy actually. So at the top of it all, I had written that, and in the process of me going bigger and bigger, instead of opting to go home, I actually, funny enough, landed in university, and I actually had a car in my first year. Money just find its way through, and the first thing when I get enough thing, I went to buy a car without even a license and a learners. Well, I'm not encouraging you to do that, but the point I'm making that it's to direct you into, when you're in grade 10, it's not important for you to know that you want to be a medical doctor. Others within the engineering field. So when you're in grade 10, it's the time that you need to start exploring. Okay, I'm interested into the health science faculty. What is it that is in the health science faculty? Who is in the health science faculty that I can start engaging to engage if my abilities fits me into the health science faculty? And now that I am in grade 10 and I'm interested into the accountancy, who is in the accountancy? What is in the accountancy? What does it take to be an accountant? Or what does it take to be an actuarial science? Or what does it take to be whatever that you want to be? So this is the time where you start exploring. This is the funny thing, or something that you do not take cognizance of. If you choose your subjects well in grade 10, you can actually play around all the streams. Let's say, for instance, a student that says, I'm not sure if I want to be a medical doctor, I want to be an accountant. You go on and choose pure maths, physical sciences, and then accounting and economics. You can still be a doctor. You can still be an accountant. So having a chance to explore all these things, it allows you to make better choices. But when you're in grade 11, you need to be aiming for at least 4 of those things to say, okay, I want to be a medical doctor, I want to be an accountant, I think I can do engineering, and I think I love also to be a DJ. Why is it important? Because this is where you start setting your goals. You start to say, if to be a medical doctor, I need to have 60 in maths, I need to have 70 in science, I need to have. So you start setting your goals and you work towards that, because you use your grade 11 results to apply. But when you're in matric, sorry, I expect you to know definitely what is it that you're applying for. Back when we were still in high school, there was not even online application. So you needed to write. So you can't just write to a university you don't know. So I had to write to say, I'm writing to the University of Wits, I'm writing to the University of Johannesburg, I'm writing to the University of Pretoria, because they offer subjects that I want. So now we at an advantage, because you can literally access a vast of university free of charge, just using online application. So my advice to each and every one of you is, immediately end of February, the university will be opening. Health sciences closes somewhere end of May, towards the end of June as well. If you were interested into health sciences, make sure that you've applied. Apply for one, a course that you think you're interested in. Have a second choice from that course, And then thirdly, make sure that you apply for residential area as well within campus. That way, even if you do not have money enough to pay for accommodation, you can go and study and then you sort out finances later. So having an on-campus accommodation buys you time to figure out finances, to figure out the bursary, to figure out anything to pay. But most importantly, make sure that when NSFAS opens, you also apply for NSFAS, because NSFAS, it's the way that the government is offering us free education. It's 100% bursary. I think from past 2016, you don't actually have to pay anything towards back when you're done. So even if you don't get a merit bursary, because I'm hoping that all of you are going to get merit bursaries, but even if you don't get a merit bursary, you'll still fall back into the NSFAS. Even if you don't get an orange carpet or a top learner bursary at the University of Wits and University of Johannesburg, respectively, you will still have NSFAS to fall onto. And also apply to as many bursaries as possible. As many. When you come across an advert of a bursary, apply. When you come across a screenshot of a bursary on somebody's status, apply. Because you don't know where your luck is. Thank you.
Bantu Pakiti. I'm not sure if I'm the one who's listening there. Samke ko no Samke Mzobe Rosie Mbali. So this is that moment where I'm going to welcome any possible questions. I'm not sure. Hamisa, are you sure from your side, honorable member? Ngwanama Major, are you sure? You don't have a question? I see Lerato has joined. Lerato Moloi, lapho KZN, awunambuzo lapho. Mr. Alex, Mbali Chicheka is there. Lead to me.
I have a question.
Yes, go for it, honorable member.
Yes, I've been listening. All sounds good and great. I'm asking, is there a way to have an effective study timetable? Because I see that during the day it's a busy day to be school and work and other stuff. Then in the evening, that's when you can sit down and start studying and analyzing everything that happened during the day at school, etc., etc. So, is there any way that I can come up with an effective study timetable?
Okay. Question number Ian noted. Maybe let me take one or two more. Then Mr. Martin will summarize in one response. Let's see. Mbali, who's on the line? We have Busisi, we're there. Guys, anyone who's got a question?
I have a question.
Go for it, honorable member.
So say it's also based on the question that the previous speaker mentioned. I want to know how to manage time since there is a lot of work and also it's a busy day every day. It's a very busy day. Like we go to school 7 hours and you need to come back. You have to cover everything for every subject since you want distinction. So how to manage time?
Question number 2 noted. I'm not sure if there's a last question before we close questions from honorable members. Let's see. Banele, are you sure you don't have a question, honorable member? We also have Rosie there. Minentle, you don't have a question, honorable member? Okay. Mr. Martin, I think in conclusion, this is you answering those two questions. And in addition to that, under the parents' question, this is the only one question that I'm having. Then it will add to those two questions, which is how to educationally support our children and most importantly, protect them from negatively influential peers or classmates. How to educationally support our children and most importantly, protect them from negatively influential peers or classmates. So those are going to be the 3 questions. And then in conclusion, this is us giving you an opportunity to wrap up in case if there are some more valuable questions which you feel or which you were expecting but they were not asked. And remember, since it won't be your last time, you might not need to cover all those that you have in mind. In case if you miss something, then at a later stage, I think we can still discuss that. So I think that was my last comment from my side. As soon as Mr. Martin is done, then I'm just going to sign out. And all of this is being recorded. I think what I'm going to do is to post it as it is, and also have a summarized version of this, which is just an audio of which you can from time to time, maybe when you're sleeping or maybe when you're walking to school, you can just listen without having to look at everything that I'm writing there. So I'll do it in 2 ways. So, Mr. Martin, I think that was all from my side, and I do thank you very much for all that you're sharing with us together with the learners. A day without learning something new, it's a day wasted. Muted.
Thank you, guys, Alex, and I didn't capture the name of the second question, but
Lerato.
Lerato. You asked a very similar. Sorry about that. I accidentally muted. So you want to have, unfortunately, a time where you're going to have a balance of the time. That's the unfortunate part. I'm just going to switch my camera. That's my study desk there. Unfortunately, I'm in bed right now because my phone was. But that's my study desk and books and just almost everything that I use to study from time to time. It never really gets to be enough. However, I'm going to share with you these tips. You won't have to study all the subjects the same. There are subjects that you need to devise strategies as to how do I learn these subjects better. If you are a good person in mathematics and science or technical subjects or accountancy, anything that wants you to multiply, those are the things that you need to practice. You are most likely going to struggle. It's not a fact, but it's a common occurrence. You're most likely going to struggle with your theory modules. So you're going to have to allocate much more time with subjects that you're struggling with, and you're going to have to frequent them more. And I would urge everybody to be ahead of the syllabus. So which means you're going to have to work extremely hard in the first semester being between January and June. Make sure that you have covered everything, even things that the teacher might have not covered. Even if you do not understand everything, but at least have a general understanding of what the chapter is talking about. Once you've done that, you will then have adequate time for revision towards the end of the year. And this will be very, very beneficial for you, because when you're revising concepts, you're actually embedding them to your brain, and you are allowing enough time for interrogating. But a person who learns now and they want to go and apply tomorrow, they don't have a chance to interrogate and question their understanding, if indeed they understand the concepts, if indeed they have grasped them, and if the examiner could ask them any differently, would they be able to understand the questions if they were to be shaped differently. This is one thing that I always share with people when they ask me about cramming, to say when I was in matric, there was a study guide that we use. I don't remember the study guide, the name, but they were white with a red binder on the side, long study guides. And in one of the chapters in physical science, there was a law in I think it was in electrical something. The law said in a parallel circuit, the sum of the parallel resistors, it's smaller than the smallest resistor. So that was the law. And I do my calculation. I cram the law. The first question says, what is the law? I write the law. The second question says, calculate. I calculate. The smallest resistor was 1. So my answer comes to 1.5. And the teacher then says I'm wrong. And I said, I can't be wrong. I did everything right. I studied this yesterday. I understood this. I actually had the same thing in the study guide yesterday. And he says, but read this phrase here. What does this phrase say? And then because I crammed that phrase and I didn't have a chance to interrogate it, ultimately I miss, how do I say this? Or I applied it wrongly. I read it, I crammed it, but I didn't understand it because I only learned it a day before the test. So you can have an effective timetable by understanding which subjects do you need to prioritize, and you need to also know which subjects are you good at. You can't do everything all at once. So if you I think Alex is the one that indicated that he's working as well. I think it's very difficult because I'm a learner, I'm a student actually, and I am a full-time worker as well. So it's very, very difficult. But what I try to do is, when I come back from work, I do whatever that I have to do. And just before I go to sleep, I make sure that I learn something. On the days that I'm not really into learning, I just grab a book, even if it's the Bible, and I read. But I need to make sure that I get myself into the tune of getting used to studying each and every single day, so that it doesn't become a problem when I need that energy. But during the week, if you're coming back from work, make sure that at least you learn something from what you have read, you would have studied. But during the weekend, shut everything out. You are a matric learner, and this is what matters right now. Matric is the key between you and the university you want to go to, or the college that you want to go to, or the music industry that you want to venture into, or the arts and culture that you want to venture into. So you need to shut down a lot of things. You need to shut down your phone. You need to shut down the relationships that doesn't really matter, and you need to focus. So during the weekend, that's where you have most of the time. Use that time during the weekend to study, and then you won't regret it, and you would have adequate time to learn as well. I think I summarized in a very long statement 2 of your questions. I just want you to confirm with me if I have answered you, or if you want something before I can sum up towards the closure.
I think from my side, you did respond to the questions that were posed by our 2 learners. Remember, guys, this is not the last time Mr. Martin is invited. He will be invited, and you might be having some more questions. You will still have an opportunity to ask those questions. So as you wrap up, Mr. Martin, I'm just not sure if you also covered that parents' question, because I think I lost some connection. But otherwise, the question was how to educationally support our children, and most importantly, protect them from negatively influential peers or classmates. And then from there, that's you wrapping up, and will be done. Muted.
Oh, okay. No, I actually had missed that question. It's unfortunate that we and when I'm saying we now, I'm talking from a point of parents. that we do not acknowledge that our children can be bad themselves. It's an unfortunate point, because you won't be able to support somebody unless if you understand that they are part of the problem. And I'm saying this deliberately, knowing that it might trigger some parents, because when you say my child is being influenced by somebody, your child is actually party to the influence. So which means they are equally at fault. So you can never correct something without knowing that that which you need to correct is actually wrong. Even if you were to shut your child inside a room and have their peers outside, if the child loves that behavior that the peers are displaying, the child will find a way to get there. But that's not what the question is about. Every parent who have a learner, it's their responsibility to ensure that they give them 110% support. One, they need to be involved in each and every single step of the way. Learners don't just need to be asked if they did their homework. You also need to have, if it's possible, if they go to sophisticated schools, you can actually have a plan, their academic plan, to say at this point they would have covered this, and then you see how well you can assist them. Some learners are interested in studying and cross-nighting. If possible, you don't have to cross-night with them. Just make sure that when they're cross-nighting, they feel safe as well. So it's either you wake up, you set the study table for them just before you go to sleep, or you're the one that wakes them up to study. So it's a lot of things that parents can do, but most of them, they need to come from the support that the child needs. Because we have parents that are giving learners the support, but not that which they need. So you have a parent that says, did you do the homework? Did you submit what you were supposed to submit? Or did this and that happen? Can't the learner just want somebody to wake them up? So you need to learn your learner, know what support they need, have a very good relationship with the school, not to police, but to support. Because if you have a good relationship with the school, to police the work, did he come to class? Did he submit the homework? You're going to miss the very basic elements that the child need. But you need to be working the journey with the child. Okay, he did not come to school. Why did he not come to school? So you need to be asking the why behind the why more, instead of being punitive when approaching the learners. So asking the why behind the why. My child is failing mathematics. Why is he failing mathematics? Is it because mathematics is difficult? If it's difficult, do I need to find him a tutor? Is it because he's not studying enough? If he's not studying enough, do I need to support him into studying enough? Is it because he's not getting enough support from the educational department? And if so, is there something I can do to enhance? So the why behind the why is the one that can help parents to make sure that their learners get the best support. Even if a learner gets a 50, this is now a learner that was struggling, and you push them from a 20, a 30 to a 50. That learner will forever be grateful to say, I walked this journey with my parents. But if you start policing them, you're going to miss very simple details of what is it that you could have supported them with. Lastly, which is very, very important to parents if they're in attendance, do not compare learners. Learners are different. We have different abilities. Some can, you can't say because Martin is performing at this percentage, you should also be doing that. No, support me from what I can. If I'm performing at 50 and below, there is no way I can perform at 100 miraculously. Support me so that at least I maintain my 50. The aim is that we all of us walk out with the Umalusi certificate, and my distinction might just be here at a 50. So if you start criticizing me and comparing me to Martin, I might actually lose this very 50 that would earn me a bachelor, and I end up dropping to a 20 or a 29 because of what you call support, but in actual sense it is critique. So parents need to learn their learners and know what is it that the learners want. I think I would have summed that question up. If there is anything, as Gwena have said, in the next engagement, we can have different angles to the very same questions. But to conclude this, I want to urge each one of you to have dreams. One, write these dreams down, because a dream that is just I want to pass, it's not quantified. I want to pass with an average of 60. That's quantified. And then you can then ask yourself, how do I pass with an average of 60? And then, but if you just say, I want to pass, how are you going to pass? I'll just study. How are you going to study? So there's a lot of hows. But if you say, I want to start to pass with an average of 80, I want to pass with an average of 70, then you're going to start to say, how am I going to get there? If you remember my introduction, I said I'm not the smartest person. I did not even have distinction for all my for all the subjects as I had wished, but I knew that I did not have the ability, but I wanted to get to university. That was my end goal. And I wanted to have a bachelor. That was my end goal also. So I started surrounding myself with people who were doing twice as much as I could. So which means if I could study until 10 and my friend says, I studied until 12 yesterday, I said, okay, which means I can push until 11. And then in that, we call each other, hey, bruh, how far are we? In what chapter are we coming now? So you always have to have that. So when you set your goals and they are quantified, you will then have missions to get there. You can attend tutors, you can attend classes, you can attend whatever and have thousands study guide, and somebody go and pass with just one study guide because they are studying the content and they are trying to understand what is in the content. So also find a study guide that is written in a way that you understand it and internalize the concept and start interrogating the concept instead of hopping from one study guide to the next, one study guide to the next, and then ultimately you end up being confused with information that you won't be able to apply. Find one textbook that you think, this textbook I understand. Not Mind the Gap. Mind the Gap is not a textbook, eh? Find a textbook that is comprehensively written, and then from that textbook, understand the context. And then when you find other guides, you just confirming the information that you have in. So you won't be misled in doing that. And I think another thing is that you need to love yourself. Love yourself more, prioritize your mental health, and take time out. Find something that keeps you busy. That something should not be your phone. Unfortunately, we live in an era where phones have taken over our lives. I wouldn't advise a matriculant to spend as much time on their phone. Not to say you shouldn't have a phone, but limit the content that you consume in the phone. Exercise, if you can, each and every single day, take a walk for 30 minutes. If you can't, at least each and every single day, each and every other day, which means if you do it on Monday, you're going to do it back on Wednesday. Run at least for 30 minutes, then you have covered the distance that you would have walked for 30 minutes each and every single day. Drink as much water. Make sure that you always have a sweet with you when you're studying. That will help you pick up your sugar and your concentration level. As you study, you can't study 4 hours consistently. Take imminent breaks in between your studying. 30 minutes, take a 5 minutes break. Another 30 minutes, you take a 5 minutes break. By the time you combine that, the amount of time that you would have spent studying, it would successfully help you at the end of the year. I wish you nothing but the best. And I hope to see you guys in the corridors of universities, in the corridors of TVET College, those who want to go to TVET College, in the corridors of Arts Museum. I'm also an artist, I'm a dancer, so in the Art Museum, those who want to do painting, those who want to do music, we're hoping to listen to your music on radio. And those who just want to venture into businesses, we hope that we'll be buying from your businesses someday. So I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Mr. Martin, ndolebuwa ndolebuwa khosi yanga ndolebuwa ngamandla mzozozo. This is me saying siyabonga. Angazi ukuthi singamubonga kanjani ngoba kunzima, asinalutho akusebenzeki. I-Eskom iyenza zinto akusebenzeki. But Mr. Martin, Thanks very much, Honorable Member. I'm pretty much sure that everyone did enjoy the information that you have shared with everyone. So, ladies and gentlemen, as always, my name is Desmond, and I'm out. You guys have a very good night.